In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, welcome back to Re-Evolution Farmstead. Today I wanted to show you the process. This is the beginning stages of growing mushrooms. There's one stage in front of this that I'll produce a video on later on. But just to let you know, we are going to start growing our mushrooms again to offer both to restaurants, grocery stores, retail customers. We're not going to be growing nearly the volume that we used to, but it's just, at least it's something. And there's me pointing to my mask. Even though there's COVID, even if there wasn't COVID, still got to wear your mask. Sanitation when you're growing mushrooms, especially indoor cultivation, is absolutely essential and critical. What we're trying to do is keep any competing molds or funguses or bacteria or viruses from outgrowing your mycelium, which is the living structure of the living organism. The mushrooms that you eat and that you buy are actually the reproductive organs. Once the mycelium has consumed the nutrients in the substrate, it's ready to reproduce, and the conditions are right. That's what you get. That's the mushrooms. The mushrooms are just the reproductive body. They spread spores, but they're really, really healthy for you and provide a lot of benefits that you don't normally find in other foods. So right here we got our torch there. We'll use that to help sanitize our equipment. And right now we're using 99% alcohol. You don't need to use 99%, but I get it at a very good rate from a store, so that's what I use. I use paper towel, spray it down there. Again, sanitation is critical. What we're trying to do is use that alcohol to kill off any, competing funguses and molds, and so that nothing can get inside those plates. If you get any type of contamination in those plates, you might as well just throw them away. They're no good. You're just going to have a ton of problems down the road, and you won't have any mushrooms. What we're doing this in is called a flow hood. Now, flow hood blows air through a super high performance HEPA filter. They run me about $150 each per filter. And so I've wiped down all of my prepared petri dishes with agar in them. That's the growing medium that the mycelium will actually grow over and start to consume, kind of like baby food for mushrooms. All right, that's a culture that I ordered. Now the company sends us 2 cultures just in case one's damaged in shipping, and as you can see here, that culture was highly damaged during shipping, but it's still viable, and that's the actual second good culture that I got. That's what it should look like. So rather than use that good one and just throw this spare culture away, I'm going to actually try to use this spare culture and breed it out. Now, I'm doing this voiceover a couple of days after I did this, and I did go up and check on the dishes after I transferred cultures to them, and they're growing out just fine. So looks like this dish is probably going to be salvageable. Right now, we're going to wipe down our culture dish that we ordered. We want to make sure, again, there's absolutely 0 contaminants, and we keep that in that clean airflow coming from the flow hood filter. And then we'll sterilize our scalpel there. We use the scalpel to slice out about a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch square of agar that has mycelium on it, and then we'll transfer those to the new petri dishes. But we want to keep those handles clean. I like to spray down the blades with a little alcohol, light it on fire, let it burn off, and then I'll put it back in that flame and heat the blade until it's red hot, or actually orange hot. Just so I can see it starting to glow, I work from the widest part of the blade out to the tip, because the tip will get hot real quick, and it will actually, get hot enough to bend or melt. So we'll wait that to get hot, and then we'll let it cool. So we want to get it in that nice breeze that's coming through that filter, through that flow hood with all that nice filtered air. 99.97% efficiency at 100 CFM. And we'll set it there to continue cooling while I re-sanitize my hand with alcohol. Make sure all the bad stuff's off my hands. And we'll take our first plate. Now, when I poured these plates, I poured the alcohol or the agar in them. I poured it when it was too hot. And I've also had them sitting in the refrigerator for about 3 weeks. So the moisture, rather than waiting for it to cool down and pour it, you know, it's not that critical, but what I did there is probably a big no-no when I'm doing this stuff. So I'm cooling the blade there too. In addition to letting the air cool it, I'm actually cooling it in the new agar. So it's kind of like dipping it in water, but it's the fresh agar in that tray, in that petri dish, that's cooling it. We want to get all that excess moisture out of there as much as we can. Normally, you don't want to keep that in front of you don't want to open those dishes too long, even in front of the filtered air, because it could potentially put contaminants in there. But I needed to get that excess moisture out of there. So what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch square, roughly, of agar with mycelium on it, and then I'm transferring it to the new plate. I'm going to try to put it right in the middle there. Normally it comes right off, but that first one was kind of sticky and I had a little trouble getting it off the blade. Alright, so that one's done. See that little speck in there? That's just a tiny bit of mycelium. What we're doing is we're basically cloning the original culture, the original sample. Cutting a little bit off and it will regrow on its own, like an earthworm or an octopus. We'll re-sterilize that blade, get it all nice and hot, kill off any other bacteria that may have gotten on it during that initial process, and then we're going to go to our next plate. So we'll repeat that, let it cool. We'll take the lid off there. Again, there was just so much condensation in there, I had to empty it out. I'm pretty confident in my filters that I'm not going to have any problems. I've never had any problems with contamination in my dishes. Now I've had these dishes open in this process right here a little bit longer than I normally would, trying to dip out that condensation. But we're going to cut another square, recap the original culture plate, put it in the new plate, and set that one aside. Now we're going to re-sterilize our knife, get it till it's glowing orange hot, set it down, open that plate up, and pour out the condensation, then cool the blade in the agar so it's not burning our tissue cultures when we go to cut. Scoop up that little bit, put it in the new plate, and reseal the plate, and we set that aside. So we'll just work our way through these dishes here. Looks like we're on our last plate there. Yeah, see, this is a better thing. I realized my camera wasn't really recording properly. So, alright, now I kind of skipped ahead here, but yep, what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of shut off our torch. And this is parafilm. It's like a super stretchy paraffin wax film. And we're going to cut off 2 squares for each plate. Normally for the smaller plates you can just use 1 square, but I find that with these 90, 100, 110 millimeter dishes, 2 squares works really good because you don't want to stretch this stuff too far because it will snap and break. And I like to use 1 continuous seal around my dishes. So I use 2. Yeah, I might waste a little bit of it, but it's better that it works better for me. So I'm going to use 2 fingers there, hold on to one end, and I'm going to stretch it and wrap it. And I'm going to move my hands around, stretch it and wrap it, stretch it and wrap it until it overlaps, then snap it off. Pat the edges down, make sure everything's sealed, and set it aside. After we're done here, I'll actually go and mark with a Sharpie on the dish the date when these samples were created, the batch number, and what type of mushroom it is. The paraffin actually is porous, so it will allow a gas exchange, carbon dioxide and oxygen, to pass through the wax, but it won't allow any other contaminants to pass through. Now for long-term storage, that paraffin is not going to hold in the humidity. We want it to remain a little humid in there. We don't want that agar to be drying out or our culture to dry out either. So for short-term grow outs, paraffin is what I use. Now these dishes are glass and they're slippery. I don't like working with them, but they're ecologically sound. I'm not wasting plastic dishes because I have to throw those away after I'm done with them. You can't re-sterilize them like I can. I can just put them in the pressure cooker and re-sterilize them. So that's it, man. All we got to do now is set them aside, keep them at the right temperature, and incubate them, and those little tiny pieces will grow out into that big circle, and we'll be able to take that and transfer it to the grain when we're ready to actually start doing a spawn run. There we go. Got 6 culture dishes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're good. We're done. Now we just got to clean up and take care of everything else. Have a great day, guys.